We are live, Houston. We have liftoff.
Yeah, we do. And guys, I can't help it because like I'm in this space. It must have been love, but it's deepening now. Because Yanko, my friend, said I look like Roxette. For any of you 80s people, you know that she was a singer and I just was vibing it.
And the deepening, um, that's the perfect word for what's going on, at least with me right now, right? And it's almost like I'm breathing the opposite way of breathing. Like when I take a breath, it doesn't feel like it's coming down through my lungs. It feels like it's coming up from my groin. It's like coming up. It's just, I don't know how to explain it, guys. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. But in the meantime, I started the conversation before we went live with Kerri about, like, I'm not even reading you guys on social media because the polarizing comments stop the bullshit. Right? Or, I am just not reading it because
Well,
I'm
let's
feeling
talk about that
not,
because I feel like that
yeah,
feels judgmental. And here's what I'm gonna say to anybody out there who is getting caught up in feeling like they need to place judgment and then comment, right? I had a very interesting conversation with somebody recently this week who does so much community action, is an advocate for underrepresented communities, just really shows up as love. But the story they were sharing was one of bullying and one of division. And I said, I am all for action through love. But the
right,
minute the story becomes fear-based, believe it or not,
right.
we're losing our power. And so what I would really encourage people to consider as they are getting caught up in these stories is tap into yourself. Am I sitting in love? True love. Or am I responding as I always would? And because our habits and behaviors and beliefs are usually wrapped up in fear, right? It makes sense that that's what you would like lean into, but it's not what's going to be the thing that nurtures you and helps you discover where your true power lies, which is staying in love. And you and I talk about this all the time. Like, my power, I'm more powerful sitting in this chair meditating and sending love to the leaders of this world, to the people who are being deported, to all of these things than I am by jumping in and making up a story about who's right or wrong, who's good or bad, how one way or the other is the way in which we're going to save the world. We're too small to know, but I do know that no act of love is wasted. And in love, your energetic vibration is far greater than that of hundreds of thousands of people who sit in fear.
And so I wrote down two things from what you just said, and 100,000% agree. Our default is fear
Hmm.
because that's ego's job. Ego's job is to keep us safe, so ego is going to look for the danger. And that's fine. Sometimes the ego is right. So I'm not saying kill ego. I love you, ego. You're doing a fantastic job. But I have free will and the ability of discernment. And I can take a look at how I am responding to my world that I created. And I can choose, like Kerri says, how I show up. And so showing up from an act of love, the second thing I wrote down is this gem: no act of love is wasted. Mic drop, guys. I think last week, at the end of last week, I don't know, time it makes no sense to me anymore. I had a conversation, no, I think it was Monday, about your energy. You spend energy. Please focus on that word spend. You spend energy. And so, how do you want to spend your time, your limited time on this earth, and your energy at this point in time? because when you spend it, the universe returns that back to you. And I'm sorry, Kerri, I think I met you because I've been spending love and you showed up, as did other amazing people. And so, how do you get into this alignment? Here we go. This weekend, we're running a workshop about the potency of connection. The potency, come on, focus on that word. That is so powerful. How do you want to get connected with mind, body, and soul? And by the way, there's not separate entities of mind, body, and soul. You are one. So get connected and stop the internal division first.
You know, it's so funny. So two things come to mind when I hear love. This week has just been so interesting. A former friend group who I have immense love for all these people, of course, but I haven't really engaged with them for quite some time. One of those people put out a message saying that they hadn't told their sister that they loved them for 9 years, and then their sister died. And I thought, how often does that happen? Because I find people are most afraid of love, unconditional love, because we make up a story that says, if I receive love, I owe somebody something. Or
Because
we
we think it's
attachment.
transactional.
That, yes. But secondly, I just got a message from a deeply spiritual gentleman. I mean, this man went to seminary school, studied like a ridiculous amount, right? Knows his stuff, like really challenges me, and proceeds to say to me, I have been cautious about texting you because I was not sure if BF meant boyfriend or best friend. And this was in regards to a comment I made about Nana. And I had to laugh because this, guys, is what trips us up and keeps us divided. We make up these stories, and then instead of having the conversation, hey, this is what my mind just said, we distance ourselves. And I responded, and first off, Nana is my best friend and my boyfriend.
I was
And
going to
yet,
say, what's the
what does
difference?
that have to do with anything?
Right?
Because just because I'm in partnership and committed to Nana in a like relationship way doesn't mean that I can't have deep, meaningful, intimate, unconditional love connection with other people. In fact, I think that is what keeps us in suffering, is this idea that we only have enough to share for one person. Sorry. And
Oh
and
my God.
yes.
It's so I think I was 18. And at that time I'm dating, left and right, left and right. And I'm dating this man who is absolutely amazing. But I was dating other people as well. I'm not in that committed relationship. I'm at the smorgasbord, right? So, right. And he showed up at my apartment, and my roommate let him in, and I was out on another date. So, needless to say, I come in and, okay, guys, hey, introduce them, right? And the date I was on, or actually, he left, but we talked later. And I said, I love you both. I'm not in love, by the way. I love you both. And he said, there's only room for one love. And I said, no, no, no. That's not true. And I will say a few years later, he did recognize that I was correct. Love is love, right? Now, carnal love, that's a whole different story because that's third dimensional love. But what Kerri and I are talking about is when we say unconditional love, it doesn't matter what you do because we see past the facade that you've created out of your fear and suffering, right? Because that's what ego's job is, to keep you safe. So you're going to make yourself right. You're going to make yourself first. You're going to make yourself do whatever it is you think you need to do for love and attention, no matter what that's like. And so we're saying, come join us on Saturday and just for the day, feel what it's like to be connected to you.
But really, truthfully, guys, you will not experience that if you don't give yourself permission. You can show up in any space at any given time. And it really has to be something that you're willing to submit and surrender to, right? And
Yeah.
here's the thing that I truly understand. Ego isn't bad, but ego does dissolve in love because ego is constantly looking for that next thing to be fearful of. And in true unconditional love, there's nothing to fear. Like you don't fear anything.
I have to tell you, oh my God, I love how our conversation weave. So I have a dear friend who is a spiritual leader and kind of like Abraham Hicks, and he had an event that he does every month, and this month was on LinkedIn, so I watched it, and he said the only dimension that holds fear is the third dimension. It's not understood beyond that, and it's here for a purpose, right? It's here as part of the game, and it's a whole other thing that I'm not going to get into here. But there is no fear in the fourth, fifth, sixth, or whatever dimensions and beyond, where there is dimensionless existence. um,
Well, it's interesting. So when I think about meditations that bring people into altered states of consciousness, really our waking state is the only state in which we really exist in fear. It's why people like Tesla, right, would put himself in an altered state of consciousness to then problem solve and create because we weren't limited by the construct and the confines of fear and our limited belief in what we can achieve. And but again, like here's the thing. I was thinking about this today as I shared with you, like I I've been coming apart to come back together, to come apart to come back together for 30 plus years now. I think I've been doing this work really, I'd say since I was 12, but really, really since I was 14. And it's always a breaking apart to recognize that we've always been whole, but it's you need to break apart to look at the fear-based beliefs and habits that have been embedded in your psyche, and they're so deeply entrenched that sometimes you have to go through that cycle several times. But deep connection is connection with going into that space
yeah.
to recognize that you're whole. When you recognize you're whole, you recognize everybody else is whole. There's no separateness. You don't feel disconnected. But you've got to be willing to give yourself permission to kind of
I just
that
wrote that down.
examine whatever it is that's preventing you from that connecting with yourself and others. And that's what I hope to bring to the table on Saturday in our workshop is just I can't take away your story. I can't remove that belief from you, but I can help you examine it so that you can recognize that it was never true in the first place and surrender it, let it go so that you can know peace, which is what you and I were talking about before we jumped on. Like I was up at 3:30 this morning and I had such a powerful energetic release, and it was just like this wave of just peace afterwards.
And I was awake until that time. And I can remember last night or this morning looking at the clock, and it was after midnight, thinking, I feels like 8 o'clock. What? Okay, well, I'm just going to keep on until I finally feel like it's time to go to sleep. Right? So I wasn't like tossing and turning and trying to go to sleep. I follow my rhythm all the time. And if I'm tired at 6 o'clock at night, I go to bed. If I'm tired at 3 o'clock in the morning, then I go to bed. Right. Um, and I don't know what it has to do with connection. I guess it's connecting to my rhythm, and I'm fine connecting to my rhythm. I'm not constrained by the clock.
I don't know. peace. It's just such a beautiful thing. But seriously, guys, this Saturday, I have no doubt that it will be I don't know, a gift to the whole, like not just the people who show up, but even to me, because in deep connection, we sit in love. We sit in non-expectation, non-judgment. And in that space, you learn yourself more deeply. And that's really what I wish for everybody, is to learn that they are perfect. They don't have to perform. They don't need to be what they others have like imposed on them. They can just simply be, and that's enough. And that can be sleeping at 3 o'clock in the morning. That can be sleeping till 12 in the afternoon. That can be being a hermit in the winter and being vibrant in the summer, which I tend to lean into.
too.
Um, whatever the case is, just being okay with what is without the judgment around what it needs to be.
Yeah, without judgment or expectations of yourself. I know I was my worst critic through much of my life. I mean, my famous line when someone would say, "Well, what motivates you?" It's like, you can't motivate me. You're not going to, I'm the one who's going to find what moves me, and I'm going to be the one that finds what's wrong. Right. And that was from a negative and forceful position, not from a positive, loving position. I can use the same words and they can mean something totally different depending on my energetic state at the time.
I love
Right?
that so much.
Yeah.
Well, it's just so funny. I think about power versus force. And circling back to like the beginning of this conversation where you're talking about scrolling and seeing a lot of like the narrative that is being shared right now. And that's force. That's this belief that if we push our experience or our belief or our understanding of things onto the world, that somehow it's going to change. And I mean, history continues to show it ain't changing. uh
No, we break countries and structures down to do what? Build the exact same thing again.
I know. So that's why, instead of trying to force something, why don't you show up in power? And just, power is curiosity, power is acceptance, power is courage to do things differently, power
Yourself.
is self-compassion,
Yes.
and power is connecting vulnerably with other people, despite the fact that there's a risk. And there is, because if you are not tapped into your intuition, the risk of connecting with somebody or being vulnerable with somebody who could reject you is higher. But you need to learn that so you can learn your intuition, so that you can then lean into the people who can just witness you and love you and not expect anything more from you than you being who you are in that
Right.
moment.
Right. So I'm going to share a story with you that came up earlier this week, which is interesting. So picture this: my son, first year of college, I take off for 3,000 miles away. Get a phone call from him in tears, bawling. His girlfriend broke up with him. He's falling apart. So me, 3,000 miles away, I'm feeling crappy. I came back for a couple of years until he finally was on his own. And here's what I said to him: I'm so proud of you for getting this hurt, because that meant that you loved that powerfully. And I want you to be open to love again, because it's worth the risk.
Hmm.
It's worth the risk of loving yourself enough to put yourself out there knowing you'll be okay.
It's so funny. I think about the fact that I truly believe the people who feel the most joy are the people who have suffered the most. You can't, with everything, right, has polar opposites. You can't have deep, profound, like overwhelming, unexplainable joy without also knowing deep, profound, overwhelming, unexplainable suffering. And yet, we live in a society where we over subscribe medication or
Ooh,
like
don't feel that pain. Ooh,
it, and we numb
put some
out.
blame on it.
Yes.
Yep.
Uh, it's true. Like there are a lot of people who don't feel that deep, like visceral suffering, but they also never get to experience the great heights of joy. And I think is that is a superpower that we have for a reason, guys. And I would encourage you to ask yourselves if you allow yourselves to feel either one of those. And if you don't, maybe give yourself permission to consider feeling, because feeling is just an opportunity to examine beliefs. And when you recognize that the belief causes you suffering, you can let that belief go and replace it with a more empowering, joyful belief. And in that, you create a reality that feels um, peaceful for you, that feels right for you.
So many people are afraid of the breaking apart.
I know.
They're so afraid of their dark side. They're so afraid of the shadow work. And, and I used to be there, so I know. I was the resisting, and I was the believer that everything has to be perfect, everything has to be okay, that there can be no pain in your life. And what did I say earlier this week to you? I'm feeling something that's coming up. And then I put a post out about the song Hello Darkness, My Old Friend.
Hello, darkness,
It's
my
my
old
old
friend.
friend. I
Oh,
come
I
to
love
talk
that
to
song.
you
I honestly think
again.
Disturbed did a better job than Simon and Garfunkel, but whatever.
Well, and I will tell you that that's exactly, I went through the first phrase of that song, and I'm like, that's exactly what going through the dark night of the soul is like. And when you don't resist it, hello darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk to you again, because the vision softly in seeping, it comes sneakily.
I love that you said that because I wrote that in my journal today. It's so sneaky. It's so sneaky.
So
But I'll tell
sneaky.
you, man, the release is like,
Amazing. But you have to get to the point of connection in order to get to the point of confidence that you can ride out the storm. Because you can, or the storm wouldn't come for you.
well, and moreover, guys, like you've made it through 100% of the days here on Earth. You can write this one out too. I
Right?
tell myself that all the time. I'm like, I have gone through some interesting things. So this is nothing. But anyway, okay. Do you want to share the details about Saturday and we can get off our soapbox so I can, I don't know, go play or do something.
Oh, seriously. Yeah, yeah. So Saturday, this Saturday on the 9th of February, come join us at the Show Your Spark Studio in Braintree. I'll put the link down at the bottom. And we will start off with building a little altar, cooking a little bit of cacao. I'm gonna put some honey in it if you want, or some oat milk in it if you want. Setting in our intentions, and as we drink the intentions that we set into the cacao, we then will go into meditation, all about connection, and start off from there. Bring your journal books, guys. When you sign up, bring your journal books, because we want to write about what we're experiencing afterwards and share if you're compelled to or not. But we are definitely going to kick it off with a very slow and soft entry into connecting with your very essence.
Which you can do at any moment in time when you raise that connection. question. So I encourage you to do so. All right, beautiful Gail, I am signing off. I wish you all a joy and laughter-filled day. Here in Connecticut, it's snowy and icy, and I am sitting in warmth, and it's a gift to me. So I have so much love to all of you. Mwah!
Bye, everybody.